You meet a woman, she's attractive, confident, mysterious. Her tattoos catch your eye. Maybe it's a delicate rose on her wrist, a fierce dragon across her back, or an abstract design running down her thigh. Whatever it is, the ink tells a story. But here's the question, do you really know what story you're walking into? Most men don't. Most men only see the art, the beauty, the edgy vibe. What they don't see are the subtle psychological signals, the hidden behavioral patterns, and the research-backed risks that come with women who cover their bodies in ink. I'm not here to tell you tattoos are bad. I'm here to reveal what studies and psychology actually show about the kind of women who choose tattoos, and what that might mean for you if you decide to date one. Because behind the ink, there are hidden dangers that most men overlook. And today, we're exposing 10 of the biggest ones. So if you're ready to see past the surface, let's begin. Tattoos have existed for thousands of years. From tribal markings in Africa to symbols of honor among warriors in Japan, to spiritual inscriptions in Polynesian culture, tattoos have always carried meaning. But in modern society, especially in the West, tattoos often represent something else: individualism, rebellion, personal freedom, and self-expression. And while there's nothing wrong with self-expression, we can't ignore the psychological and sociological patterns that keep showing up in the data. Women with tattoos report higher levels of risk-taking. They are more likely to engage in impulsive decisions. They often carry deeper struggles with self-image and validation. And studies even link tattoos with certain relational and emotional challenges. Again, this isn't about attacking women with tattoos. It's about understanding the signals, so you know exactly what you're stepping into before emotions and attraction blind you. Let's dive into Danger 1. Impulsivity and risk-taking tendencies. When a woman chooses to put permanent ink on her body, it's not just about beauty or art. It's also about decision-making. Tattooing, especially when done young or in moments of high emotion, reflects a willingness to act quickly without fully weighing the long-term consequences. That tendency, known as impulsivity, is one of the strongest patterns researchers have identified among heavily tattooed individuals. And here's why this matters to you. Impulsivity in one area of life often bleeds into others. A woman who impulsively inks her skin is more likely to be impulsive in money, relationships, lifestyle choices, and even fidelity. What the studies reveal. A study published in Personality and Individual Differences found that tattooed individuals scored significantly higher on measures of sensation-seeking and impulsivity compared to their non-tattooed counterparts. Another research project in psychiatry, psychology and law suggested that women with multiple tattoos reported higher engagement in risky behaviors such as binge drinking, unsafe sex, and reckless spending. In fact, several surveys of college students revealed that those with tattoos were not only more impulsive but also more likely to admit they sometimes regretted past decisions, including tattoos themselves. So the science is clear. Tattoos are often less about permanent art and more about temporary emotional highs. The psychology of impulsivity. Impulsivity isn't just bad decision-making. It's deeper. It's about instant gratification over patience. Instead of waiting and considering, the person craves immediate satisfaction. "I want it now" becomes the guiding principle. Emotional escapism. Many people use tattoos as a way to cope with heartbreak, identity confusion, or a need for reinvention. The act of tattooing feels like a reset button, even though the consequences last forever. Rebellion against structure. Impulsivity often comes with a resistance to authority, tradition, or societal norms. The tattoo becomes not just art, but a visible declaration of, "I don't follow rules." Now, ask yourself, if this is how she approaches her skin, how will she approach arguments, finances, or loyalty? Real-world example. Let's paint a picture. You meet Sarah. She's exciting, full of energy, unpredictable in a way that feels intoxicating. She has a colorful sleeve tattoo that she proudly tells you she got in one night after a crazy breakup. At first, it seems adventurous, even attractive. You love her wild side. But 6 months into the relationship, you start noticing patterns. She makes big financial purchases without thinking. She jumps from job to job, constantly seeking excitement. When things get tough between you, instead of working it out, she storms out, blocks your number, and reappears days later acting as if nothing happened. What seemed fun and spontaneous at the beginning now feels chaotic and unstable. That sleeve tattoo. It wasn't just decoration, it was a warning sign. How impulsivity affects relationships. Impulsivity is toxic in long-term relationships because it creates instability. Here's how it shows up. Unpredictable mood swings. She acts on emotions instead of reason, leading to unnecessary fights. Financial instability. Impulsive spending, from tattoos to shopping sprees, drains resources. Sexual recklessness. Impulsive personalities are more likely to seek thrill through risky behavior, including infidelity. Breakup threats. Instead of problem solving, she may impulsively decide the relationship is over during heated moments, only to regret it later. For a man seeking peace and stability, dating a highly impulsive woman is like building a home on quicksand. Let's imagine 2 men. Man A ignores the signs. He dates a tattooed woman whose impulsivity he mistakes for adventure. Over time, he finds himself trapped in a cycle of drama, financial strain, and emotional exhaustion. Man B sees the signs early. He recognizes that her impulsive tattoos reflect deeper tendencies. Instead of diving in headfirst, he keeps his distance, enjoys her socially, but never risks his long-term peace for short-term thrill. Guess which man sleeps better at night? Takeaway for men. Impulsivity is attractive in the short term. It feels like fireworks, excitement, and novelty. But in the long run, impulsivity creates instability, regret, and conflict. So when you meet a tattooed woman, ask yourself, was this tattoo a thoughtful decision, or an impulsive act? Does she show patterns of thrill-seeking in other areas of life? Am I prepared to handle the chaos that comes with that kind of mindset? If the answer makes you uneasy, trust your gut. Because the same impulse that put ink on her skin may one day be the same impulse that makes her walk out the door. Danger 2, higher correlation with substance use. When people talk about tattoos, they often frame them as art, expression, or just personal choice. But what if the ink is more than art? What if it's a signal of lifestyle choices? Multiple studies show a strong correlation between tattoos and higher rates of alcohol and drug use. Not every tattooed woman is a heavy drinker or drug user, but the statistics paint a clear picture. Women with multiple tattoos are significantly more likely to engage in substance use compared to those without tattoos. And when you're dating, this becomes more than just her issue, it becomes yours too. What the studies reveal. A study published in the Journal of Substance Use found that individuals with 4 or more tattoos were substantially more likely to engage in high-risk drinking and drug use. Research in the American Journal of Sociology discovered a notable link between tattooed women and party-centric social circles, environments where alcohol and drugs are normalized. Another study by Lawman and Derrick, published in the Journal of the American Academy of Dermatology, showed that tattooed individuals had higher associations with smoking, binge drinking, and recreational drug use. So the ink doesn't just decorate the skin, it can often point to underlying habits and environments. The psychology behind it. Why the connection between tattoos and substance use? Psychology gives us a few answers. Sensation-seeking personality. People who crave novelty and excitement are more likely to get tattoos, and also more likely to experiment with substances. It's the same wiring in the brain, the pursuit of stimulation. Coping mechanism. For some women, tattoos become a form of emotional escape, much like alcohol or drugs. Both behaviors are attempts to mask pain, trauma, or dissatisfaction with life. Social identity. Tattoos often align with subcultures where substance use is more prevalent, nightlife, party scenes, rebellious circles. Once she identifies with that world, the behaviors often come as part of the package. You start dating a woman with a half sleeve and a bold thigh tattoo. She's charismatic, fun, and loves to go out. At first, her lifestyle feels exciting: bars, rooftop parties, music festivals. But slowly, you notice the pattern. Every night out ends with heavy drinking. She doesn't just have fun, she needs the alcohol to loosen up. Friends in her circle casually use drugs, and while she insists it's just for fun, you see it becoming part of her life. What began as thrill and energy soon turns into instability, hangovers, mood swings, and unhealthy coping mechanisms. Her tattoos weren't just about art, they were badges of a lifestyle. How substance use impacts relationships. When alcohol or drugs become a consistent part of someone's life, it doesn't just affect them. It affects you. Unpredictability: you never know if you're coming home to peace or chaos. Conflict: substance use magnifies small arguments into explosive fights. Trust issues: a partner under the influence may say or do things she later denies or regrets. Financial strain: party lifestyles are expensive, and you may find yourself footing the bill. Health risks: from unsafe decisions to long-term health consequences, the ripple effect is enormous. Even if she's functional most of the time, the long-term risk is clear: substance reliance erodes stability, loyalty, and peace of mind. The two sides of her. On Friday night, she's magnetic, laughing, dancing, showing off her tattoos as symbols of freedom and self-expression. Everyone admires her confidence. But on Sunday morning, you're dealing with her hangover, her irritability, her broken promises. That's the reality many men face when they date women who mix impulsive choices with substance-driven lifestyles. The tattoos are just the visible layer. The habits underneath are where the danger lies. Takeaway for men. Here's the truth: you can't build a stable, lasting relationship with someone who constantly escapes reality instead of facing it. So when you meet a tattooed woman, don't just admire the ink. Ask yourself, what lifestyle does this tattoo represent? Who does she surround herself with? Do alcohol, smoking, or drugs play a central role in her social life? Because if they do, you're not just dating her, you're dating her habits, her environment, and her chaos. Danger 3: unstable relationship patterns. At first glance, tattoos might look like nothing more than art. But studies suggest they can also signal something deeper: instability in relationships. This isn't about shaming women with tattoos. It's about recognizing a trend: women who cover themselves in ink often come from backgrounds of turbulence, rebellion, or trauma. And those inner battles frequently play out in their romantic lives. If you've ever felt like you were on an emotional roller coaster with a tattooed partner, hot one day, cold the next, loving in one moment, explosive in the next, it's not in your head. Research and psychology suggest that tattoos can correlate with higher levels of relationship chaos. What the studies reveal. A study published in Archives of Sexual Behavior found that tattooed women reported higher numbers of sexual partners and were more likely to admit to infidelity compared to non-tattooed women. Research in the Journal of Social Psychology indicated that people with visible tattoos often reported shorter relationship durations and higher breakup rates. Another fascinating survey in Body Image Journal suggested that tattooed women scored higher on measures of emotional volatility: they felt things more intensely, both good and bad. Put together, this paints a picture: tattoos often signal a personality more prone to emotional extremes and relational instability. The psychology of relationship instability. Why is there a link between tattoos and unstable love lives? Identity struggles. Many women use tattoos as a way to redefine themselves after a breakup, trauma, or identity crisis. But instead of solving the inner issue, the tattoo becomes a temporary patch, while the instability remains. Validation seeking. Tattoos often invite attention, compliments, stares, curiosity. Women who crave that external validation may also crave it in relationships, making them more prone to wandering if they don't feel constantly admired. Rebellion against tradition. Tattoos are still seen as countercultural in many settings. That rebellious streak can carry into relationships, resisting commitment, challenging boundaries, rejecting stability in favor of novelty. Let's say you meet Emily. She has a full back tattoo, a phoenix rising from flames. She tells you she got it after leaving a toxic ex, as a symbol of her rebirth. At first, you admire her story. You think, she's been through a lot, but she's strong now. But as the months go by, you start noticing patterns. She loves intensely, but fights with the same intensity. She talks about her fresh starts often, new jobs, new friends, new hobbies, yet struggles to stay consistent. When you have disagreements, instead of calmly resolving them, she threatens to leave or accuses you of being just like her ex. Her tattoo was supposed to symbolize rebirth, but in reality, it reflected a deeper truth: she's constantly burning down her own relationships and trying to rise again. How relationship instability affects you. Dating a woman with unstable relationship patterns is exhausting. Here's why. Emotional whiplash: one day you're her hero, the next you're her villain. Constant breakup threats: she uses leaving as a weapon in arguments. Drama over peace: stability feels boring to her, so she unconsciously creates chaos to feel alive. Attachment anxiety. She may oscillate between clinging to you and pushing you away. The net result? You're left drained, confused, and constantly on edge. Instead of building a partnership, you're managing a storm. The cycle of chaos. Men who date women with unstable patterns often describe it as a cycle. The high: passion, excitement, intensity. The crash: explosive fights, jealousy, drama. The split: she leaves or threatens to leave. The return: tearful apologies, promises of change. Then it repeats. Over and over. And every time you forgive, you get pulled deeper into the cycle. Takeaway for men. Tattoos, especially when tied to rebirth or fresh start narratives, can sometimes reveal a history of instability. And instability in her past often becomes instability in her present, and in your relationship. Ask yourself. Does she talk about constant reinvention or starting over? Does she thrive on drama more than peace? Do her tattoos symbolize inner wounds rather than simple art? If the answer is yes, be cautious. Because love isn't supposed to be a storm you survive, it's supposed to be a bond that helps you grow. Danger number 4, attention-seeking and validation needs. Here's a truth most men overlook: a tattoo is not just for her, it's for the world to see. Yes, some tattoos may hold private meaning, but when a woman places ink where it's clearly visible, on her arms, her thighs, her chest, her back, it becomes a message to others. And the deeper you look into the psychology of visible tattoos, the clearer the pattern becomes. They often serve as a tool for attention, validation, and social signaling. What the studies reveal. A survey published in the Journal of Applied Social Psychology found that women with visible tattoos reported higher desires for social recognition and were more likely to view their tattoos as tools of personal visibility. Another study in the International Journal of Dermatology reported that nearly 70% of women said they got tattoos to enhance attractiveness or to feel more noticeable in social settings. Research also suggests that tattooed women, particularly those with larger or more provocative designs, are perceived as more sexually open and approachable by men, which can create an addictive cycle of validation seeking. In short, the tattoo isn't just about expression, it's often about attention. The psychology of validation seeking. Why do tattoos and validation often go hand in hand? External identity construction. Instead of being content with who they are internally, some women build an external persona through tattoos. They rely on external attention to reinforce their sense of self. The compliment trap. Tattoos naturally invite comments. What does it mean? That's beautiful. This repeated validation can create dependence. She craves the constant reinforcement. Sexual signaling. Tattoos can serve as markers of openness, rebellion, or confidence. This makes her more likely to receive flirtation, attention, and pursuit, feeding the need for external validation. Let's take Mia. She has a large floral tattoo running across her chest, visible in almost any outfit. She tells you it's about growth and self-love. But when you go out together, you notice. She chooses outfits that highlight the tattoo, ensuring it's seen. Strangers constantly ask her about it, and she loves the attention. On social media, her tattoo is front and center in nearly every picture, often accompanied by captions about empowerment. At first, it feels harmless. But over time, you realize something deeper. Mia needs attention like oxygen. Compliments on her tattoo, likes on her pictures, admiration from strangers. Without it, she becomes restless, irritable, even insecure. You're not just dating her, you're competing with the validation she craves from the world. How attention-seeking affects relationships. When a woman thrives on external validation, relationships become unstable. Competition for attention. You're not her main source of emotional fulfillment. Her audience is. Insecurity triggers. If she's not constantly noticed, she feels unworthy, leading to drama. Risk of infidelity. Validation seeking can escalate into pursuing flings or emotional affairs when she feels ignored. Social media addiction. Tattoos become content, feeding a cycle of likes, comments, and external approval. Instead of intimacy being about you and her, it becomes about her and the crowd she's performing for. Men who date women with attention-seeking tendencies often describe them as performers. At home, she might be restless, insecure, even moody. In public or online, she comes alive, showing off her ink, posing for photos, basking in the glow of strangers' compliments. The tattoo isn't just art, it's a stage. And if you're with her, you become part of her audience, whether you like it or not. Takeaway for men. Attention-seeking is like a thirst that never gets quenched. If her tattoos are designed for visibility and validation, ask yourself. Does she dress in ways that showcase her ink more than necessary? Does she constantly talk about, post, or show off her tattoos? Does she rely on strangers' attention to feel beautiful or secure? If the answer is yes, understand this, her need for external validation will always compete with the stability of your relationship. Because a woman who lives for the eyes of others will never be fully satisfied with the eyes of just one man. Danger 5, Body image and self-esteem issues. Here's a reality most men never think about: tattoos aren't always about confidence, they're often about insecurity. On the surface, a tattoo can look bold, fearless, even sexy. But beneath that ink, there's often a different story, a struggle with self-esteem, body image, or unresolved emotional wounds. In other words, tattoos can be less about, "I love myself," and more about, "I don't feel enough as I am." And if you're dating a woman who uses tattoos as a way to cover up self-esteem issues, you'll quickly realize, you're not just dating her, you're dating her insecurities too. What the studies reveal. A study in the Journal of Health Psychology found that people with multiple tattoos scored significantly lower on measures of body satisfaction compared to those without tattoos. Another survey in the Body Image Journal revealed that tattooed women often use ink to redefine parts of their body they feel insecure about, turning areas of shame into areas of attention. Research in the Journal of Psychiatric Research connected higher tattoo frequency with self-esteem fluctuations, especially among women who admitted they use tattoos to feel stronger or more attractive. So while tattoos can be framed as empowerment, the data shows they're often tied to hidden self-doubt. The psychology of body image and tattoos. Why do tattoos often connect with body image struggles? Masking insecurity. A tattoo can draw attention away from an area of insecurity. For example, a woman insecure about her stomach might get a side tattoo to distract the eye. Someone insecure about scars might cover them with ink. Instead of healing the insecurity, the tattoo masks it. False empowerment. Many women describe tattoos as empowering. But the empowerment often comes from external reactions, "Wow, that's hot," rather than true inner confidence. Reinvention after pain. Tattoos are frequently linked to breakups, trauma, or life transitions. A woman with multiple tattoos might be telling you, "I've been broken, and this is how I rebuilt myself." Real-world example. Think of Lisa. She has a butterfly tattoo across her lower back. She tells you it symbolizes freedom and transformation. But as you get to know her, you realize she struggles with how she looks without makeup. She constantly compares herself to other women online. She talks about how she used to hate her body and how the tattoo made her feel better. At first, the tattoo seemed like confidence. But over time, you realize it's more like armor, covering up wounds she never healed. And when those insecurities flare up in the relationship, jealousy, need for reassurance, emotional volatility, you see the cost of dating someone who hasn't truly made peace with herself. How self-esteem issues affect relationships. When tattoos are tied to body image struggles, they can create hidden problems in relationships. Constant reassurance needs. She may seek endless validation from you. "Do you still find me attractive?" Jealousy and comparison. Insecure women compare themselves to others, leading to conflict and suspicion. Emotional roller coasters. Self-esteem issues create highs and lows. One day she feels beautiful, the next she feels worthless. Attention seeking. To mask insecurity, she may use her tattoos to attract attention outside the relationship. And here's the kicker, no matter how much you reassure her, it's never enough, because the issue isn't you, it's her unresolved self-worth. The illusion of confidence. Many men fall into the same trap. They see a tattooed woman and think, "Wow, she's confident, bold, fearless." But here's the twist. What looks like confidence is often compensation. The ink is loud because the self-esteem is quiet. The art is bold because the inner voice is timid. And if you don't see through the illusion, you'll get blindsided when her insecurities start running the relationship. Confidence that's real doesn't need decoration. But insecurity often hides behind bold signals. So ask yourself. Are her tattoos about celebrating strength, or masking weakness? Does she genuinely seem comfortable in her skin, or does she rely on tattoos to feel that way? Do you find yourself constantly reassuring her? If her tattoos are a disguise for insecurity, understand this: no amount of love, loyalty, or reassurance will heal her until she heals herself. And until she does, you'll always be dating not just her, but her shadows.